Okay, so this is week 10. It is Long Day's Journey into Night Week, and so Zach Spears will be uploading his presentation by Monday evening or night. And also, I want you to kind of think about and consider Long Day's Journey into Night because it's a big work and it's also a very major work in American drama. And you'll see in the discussion board, I've asked a question as well in terms of tracing how drama has changed over time. So we started off with the Octoroon and Margaret Fleming, and then Trifles, and now we're Long Day's Journey and Night, kind of taking leaps of almost 20 years in between each one. And so I just want you to think about how has American drama changed over time. Long Day's Journey and Night, of course, is being so big. There's plenty of things that are out there to talk about. I'm sure Zach will have some good suggestions as well for your comments. What I wanted to really spend some time on for a little bit is just kind of showing you or talking with you about the stuff that you're seeing appearing on the announcements page. Number one, and most importantly, is the rubric for your final paper. Make sure you look at that, okay? Because I have had a lot of students in the past who are somewhat surprised if they do poorly on the paper. And so I always make sure that the rubric is there and available in the final 4 or 5 weeks of the semester. So as you're thinking about your paper, as you're approaching your paper, you have that background there for you. And so notice that research and comprehension are kind of the biggest things here. And comprehension is how well do you understand that material. So just kind of read through the rubric. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Also, you'll see that the turnitin.com course ID and password have been set up. And so just go to turnitin.com and log in, sign in. It's like registering for anything. It's free though. And so make sure that you don't forget your password and all of that jazz, because I don't have access to it. And I have had students in the past in several classes who have forgotten their password, and it's like 10 minutes until they need to submit something, and they're frantically emailing me, I don't know the password, so I don't know anything about your account. And so make sure that you have everything set up well before you get ready to submit your paper. You don't want to be the one person who emails me, Saturday at 11:55 p.m. wondering where to put your paper, okay, and so on. So make sure that you're keeping up with this stuff. Just get it done. Remember your password, but otherwise forget about it. So that way when you go back to turn in your final paper, it's ready to rock. Your final paper is due April 29th, and I'll open up the link for turning in your final paper within the next couple of weeks, so you can submit it anytime as soon as you see that link up and running. I will say that with the final paper, there are some options that are there for Stoner because the nature of the online class, we only really get to discuss the first half of Stoner. And so after that, we might have the opportunity to wrap up the second half, but I don't want to take too much time away from your paper. So that's turnitin.com. You'll also see, starting here on Sunday, actually, so basically today, it will appear your final exam details, okay? The final exam is waiting for you in the testing center, and so it will be available basically, let me double check here the date so I have it right. It's going to be basically from March 21st to April 22nd. And so just kind of keep that in mind, those dates, so you can see that on here on the announcements when it pops up. And essentially it's going to be kind of like the midterm on steroids. It's going to be 2 hours in length. That's a pretty firm limit. If you go over, I dock points. But the exam is available from March 22nd or March 21st to April 22nd. If it's April 23rd and you take it, it's not going to be there and you're not going to take the exam, period. If you go there on April 22nd and you don't have your ID or whatever regulation the testing center has and they say you can't take the exam, not my fault, not my problem, okay? So I provided a link in the announcement to your final, or to the testing center regulations and guidelines, so make sure you've gone through those. And basically all of the rules and regulations are within that announcement about the exam. So don't forget about that, okay? It's there. You pretty much can take it at your own leisure, even though you may find that if you were to take it on March 21st, for instance, some of the questions that are on the exam you might not be able to answer entirely. But you can pick and choose the questions. You can choose, I think there are 6 questions, and you can choose 5 of those. Fair warning, 2 of those questions have to do with long day's journey in a night, so you can't avoid that play. So it's kind of a big deal. So I also advise, if you go into it and you want to write about a particular topic, but you haven't read a short story, and I've had students do this in the past, they sit down and start reading the short story, okay? And while they're doing that, they're frantically burning off time left and right. You have 2 hours, and I choose 2 hours because you need to know your stuff. And so if you go into it and you know your stuff, 2 hours, I've had students wrap it up in like 45 minutes or an hour because they already know what they need to do, or they've teased that out over the course of the semester by taking notes, listening to the presentations, watching the presentations, et cetera, et cetera. So kind of make sure that you're watching all these presentations as you go, that you're taking notes from the book, all of that. So those are the things to keep in mind. Also on the, let me double check and make sure I put it in the course documents folder. Yes, well, no, hold on. Yes, no. On the assignments tab, sorry, pressed the wrong one. On the assignments tab, you will find a presentation for the final paper. If you haven't viewed that already, make sure that you do so. And I'll also make the final paper, rules and requirements available also under the assignments tab. So I'll go ahead and do that right now. So if you have any questions, of course, feel free to ask. You've got, of course, this week, long days, journey, and night, and then just a whole bunch of stuff here that's on the horizon. That's the end of the semester, basically. So make sure you take care of your final exam, read the announcement about that, and start thinking about your final paper. Make sure you understand the rubric for that. And as always, make sure you ask me if you have any questions.